Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, got it. So I'm a geophysicist, as I say, and I've been working on various aspects of tectonics, earthquakes, volcanoes, plate tectonics, and so on for much too long now, 4 or 5 decades. So I'm going to talk about what I consider to be the sort of underlying physical principles behind the problem of induced seismicity or potential induced seismicity. And I'm throughout the talk, I've just got about 10 or 12 pictures to show you, but I've left references in each picture where there's data that I'm accessing so that you can follow this in detail at your leisure. Specifically, there are 3 source materials for induced seismicity. The first one by Dave Simpson, then one by Harsh Gupta, who wrote a book, and then a recent review by Gillian Folger. So those are on this first page. I'm going to start. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you put it in the slide?
Yes, I see.
Presentation form.
Put it in the slide presentation mode.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. All right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
And can you see my pointer wandering around?
Yes.
Oh, good. Excellent. Okay, so this first slide looks like a lot of words. Just look at the blue things. I'm going to look at 4 topics sequentially, and the details I'll explain as we get there. But the first is some understanding of strain rates on in a plate tectonic regime on our planet, and then zooming into understanding why faults fracture or fail, because they're all fractures already existing. And then I'm going to talk about reservoir-induced seismicity briefly, and then focus on the Renaissance Dam. So lots and lots of words there, but I'm going to treat them probably too simply for this audience. But I having spent a lot of time teaching students, I realized that you can't say anything too simple. It's always helpful to know what's going on. So this first slide explains what I mean by failure strain. The fact is that rocks will break when you stress them by 1 part in 10,000. So you deform a rock by 1 part in 10,000, it will fracture. In fact, it'll probably require a bit more than that. An intact rock may go up to 10 to the minus 3, but because failure occurs on faults, it seems that 10 to the minus 4 is the number. 10 to the minus 4 is 1 part in 10,000. Now, if you look at the a world map of strain rates, in red are regions where strain rates are increasing, and in blue where strain rates are decreasing. And the more intense the color, of course, the faster the rate. So in this part of Africa, we have strain rates of the order of 10 to the minus 7 to 10 to the minus 6 per year. And they're tensile. In California, they are 10 to the minus 6 or 10 to the minus 7, and they're in either in shear or in compression. So what happens between earthquakes is that plate motions tend to stress a rock and to increase that strain in the rock beyond a certain level, at which it starts to approach the failure strain at 10 to the minus 4. And it's not a nice crisp value, unfortunately. If it were, we would be able to predict earthquakes, of course. It's actually a rather diffuse region, but when you get close to it, it doesn't take much to trigger an earthquake. Now, and when it does, of course, the earthquake releases all that strain and you start again. And we feel that probably the rocks never quite get back to that completely relaxed condition of 0 strain, but they get to some low value. And then the process repeats. And the time it takes to repeat is called the renewal interval. And of course, the renewal interval depends on the strain rate. So in the middle of a continent, where strain rates may be only 10 to the minus 10, it may take 1 million years to get from one earthquake to the next. If you're at a plate boundary, whether it's tensile or compression or shear, whatever, it can be as short as 50 years. In California, it's around about 100 years, and so on. And this applies to all magnitudes of earthquakes. And as a result, it turns out that most of the world is hovering between 10 to the minus 5 to 10 to the minus 4 all the time. Very few parts of the world actually get down to being completely relaxed. There's an enormous amount of strain energy in the continents, and I calculated it, and it's enough to provide all our energy needs for forever if we could use it, but of course we can't. The fact is that most of the world, and this is the take-home message, is almost about to go anywhere you look. There are very few places that are relaxed. And so it takes a very small amount of additional strain to produce that. Now, the second thing we need to think about is what actually triggers that moment of failure. If you imagine a piston driving a spring and there's a brick on a concrete road, you can imagine that as the strain gets to 10 to the minus 4, 1 part in 10,000, then this brick is about to move, and a very small increment in this strain will produce that slip. However, you can hold the strain absolutely stable even at a lower level than 10 to the minus 4. I'm dropping it by a factor of 10 to the minus 5 here, but instead I'm injecting some fluid into the base or the contact area between the brick and the road, which of course is the fault. And I can allow that brick to move, and I don't have to produce any increase of strain to do that. I just need to increase the fluid pressure. And this, you can think of lubricating the fault, or in some cases, the pressure of the fluid in the earth is actually higher than the lithostatic stress. It's able to lift the surface away completely. So in practice, it just requires a very small amount of water pressure or carbon dioxide pressure. Carbon dioxide at depths where earthquakes occur is a liquid, and it's very, very common. And so it's quite possible that carbon dioxide triggers earthquakes in many seismic zones. How much pressure do you require? Surprisingly little. The atmosphere is 1 bar, and you require only 1/10 of a bar of pressure to trigger earthquakes. And in some subduction zones, it's even much smaller than that, 100 times smaller. So you require very small fluid pressures to induce an earthquake that's about to occur. So if you look at a reservoir, the situation is shown here schematically. Here's a dam, here's a reservoir. This happens to be the volume of the GERD reservoir, 74 cubic kilometers. That's going to be the 7th biggest in the world. So it's huge. And it's worth noting, it's bigger than anything in the United States. It's, you have huge dams in Africa, like the Kariba Dam, and they've induced earthquakes and so on. We're going to talk about that. So this volume of water, of course, weighs an enormous amount, and it produces a stress which, if you have an inclined fault like I'm showing, of course, you can easily envisage simply shutting that fault down. The weight of the reservoir is enormous, and it's adding to already the weight of the rock above it, and this fault is clamped shut, which means that friction is unable to move it, even though it may be stressed by some relic stress. And going back to my very first slide, everywhere in the world is under an almost failure stress. It's very close to failure. So it doesn't require very much. In other words, when you put this reservoir here, you're actually shutting all the earthquakes down. You're not going to allow any earthquakes to occur. Now, the problem is that the reservoir hasn't got a nice plastic sheet under it. And what it's doing, in addition to loading the rocks, is that it's injecting fluids through cracks, thousands and thousands of small cracks that exist in the earth, and this results in fluids diffusing down to the fault zone. And when it gets to the fault zone is in fact a crack of some sort. It's very permeable usually. Sometimes it acts as an aquiclude and prevents fluids from going below it. But you can imagine that zone that we're calling the fault now is now beginning to fill up with fluids, and those fluids are under pressure. This is a considerable pressure. In the case of dams, we've learned that it takes, in general, you always get earthquakes when you have a dam higher than 100 meters. Not immediately, sometimes many years later, but 100 meters seems to be a sort of critical rule of thumb. So our dam in question, the Renaissance Dam, is 150, I can't remember the height, 150 meters. It's certainly above 100 meters. So that's acting as a pump that's pumping these fluids down here. And now here's the problem. You have a load clamping the fault. You have fluids that have diffused down into the fault, lubricating it and moving it towards failure. So if you reduce the load here by a very small amount, I'm just going to lower it by 2 meters, you unclamp a fault that now is in equilibrium, but with much higher pore pressures, which means the fault is no longer stable. You've induced an earthquake on it by simply raising the pore pressure and reducing the load. And this is the general theme that has been recognized as occurring throughout the world. Wherever you put a large dam and you modulate the pressure in the reservoir, the instantaneous relaxation of the load does not occur synchronously with what's happening in the fault zone, because this diffusive process takes days, weeks, or even years to get down to the fault zone. So fluids, once you get them into the fault zone, don't diffuse out at anywhere near the rate at which you can unload the dam, which, as you know, will happen over months. So changing the pore pressure down here requires years. Changing the pressure up here requires months. And that's the fatal combination that results in induced earthquakes. I'm going to just now show you a bunch of well-known reservoirs that have induced earthquakes. I'm going to start with one which is tiny. This is only a 34-meter high dam in Brazil. It's near the coast. It's near the coast. It doesn't mean it's actually not a continental setting, because the plate extends, of course, to the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So this is on the edge of a continent. It's a place where you shouldn't get earthquakes. And yet, in this case, this is the Açu earthquake reservoir in Brazil. It has a volume of only 2.4 cubic kilometers, 34 meters high. And every time you get to above the 100-meter level, this is events per month, the water depth here is quite small, but every time you get to some maximum level and then reduce the pressure, you get earthquakes occurring. The earthquakes are not occurring as it goes down and down and down, or as it goes up and up so much. It's the change of pressure resulting from a reduction in the water level after reaching a peak. The Mangla Reservoir on the right here is in the foothills of the Himalaya. However, it's not a place where there are Himalayan stresses, because the zone where active loading, tectonic loading, is occurring in the northern edge of the Himalaya, which is 100 kilometers from here. So you can think of this as, again, in a continental setting, although it's a flexed setting. When the reservoir was initially built in the 1960s or so, there weren't very many induced earthquakes. But when they raised the level about 5 years ago to a new height, just after that maximum height occurred, the lowering in the level produced a 5.9 earthquake. Now, this is actually a lot more serious. It killed a few people. And of course, it shook the dam quite severely. but the dam was well built and it didn't suffer any damage. So this is a problem of, again, I'm just showing these to point out that earthquakes are induced after a peak in maximum reservoir level. The most famous one is Lake Mead. Again, this is a mid-continent setting. The capacity of this is 32 cubic kilometers. That's a third the volume of the Renaissance dam reservoir. And this had a very high, it's 220-meter arch dam, the Hoover Dam, as you well know. But this is the 100-meter level, and you could see that earthquakes were beginning to be induced after a peak occurred and a small lowering occurred. There was the first intimation of seismicity. This is a place where there were no earthquakes before the reservoir was placed there. And every incremental raising of water level and its subsequent lowering resulted in small outbursts of seismicity until eventually there was a magnitude, I can't remember them, I think it was a 5 or so, but this is now number of earthquakes per 10-day period. You can see huge amounts of microseismicity occurring with these fluctuations in level. The last two examples, the Koina earthquake is perhaps the most famous example, because this was a big shock to everyone. This is a 6.6 earthquake on the edge of the Indian, near the Ghats region. Mumbai is up here somewhere. So this was a region that hadn't had any earthquakes larger than magnitude 1 or 2 or 3, or maybe no, I don't think there had been any 4s even in this region. So reservoir level reached 80 meters, nothing much. There was small amounts of microseismicity here, but as soon as it got close, it got to 80, there were, and the level decreased, the pore pressure was able to induce this magnitude 6. And there have been earthquakes ever since. My last example is the Xinjiang earthquake, reservoir in, in China. This is near the coast again, but this is a very small volume reservoir. It's reached that magical height of 105 meters, and it induced a magnitude 4 earthquake, has 6.1 here, a 5.1 here, a 5.3 here. Again, after a maximum in reservoir level and a reduction in level following that. So there is no question that reservoirs produce or induce earthquakes. And so the question is, will that occur in the Renaissance Dam area? So I'm just showing you this picture just to give the setting of the dam and its reservoir here on the Blue Nile. Effectively, the strain rates are very high in the rift. They are, in fact, rather small in the flanks of the rift. You can think of the rift as the Nubian plate is moving off to the bottom right, the Arabian plate off to the top left, and top right, I mean. The rates are, 15 millimeters a year and 6 millimeters a year here. You can think of the African plate as fixed. So this is a fairly good place to be if you want to put a dam. It's nowhere near the rift zones. The strain rates are either small or negligible as you get into the Sudan, because there is a small seismic zone here, but just in this region we have no earthquakes worth speaking of. I know there was a magnitude 4 in this region to the south in 1900. There've been 1 or 2 small micro earthquakes recorded, but this is a fairly sensible place to put a reservoir if you have to put one. And of course, there are many good reasons for putting it there. Just before leaving, the Danakil horse is rotating counterclockwise as a result of this spreading motion. But this region here is completely relaxed. It's in tension. It's basically means that the edge of the African plate here is not under any kind of compression. Although I'll discuss a possibility for that in a minute. So if you look at this wonderful seismicity study by Ayele in 2017, where he has partitioned the region into zones of that he considered has similar earthquakes. In each of these yellow zones, he places a maximum credible earthquake, which we call M-max. And you can see these earthquakes vary from 7.2 down to in the region of interest to us 5.9. Now, where does M-max come from? Well, M-max is considered to be the largest possible earthquake you can have in a region, and it's based on the largest possible fault that you can identify in that region. So in the rift zone, we know that there are a large number of faults. We can sort of surmise that some of them will join to coalesce and slip contiguously. And if that occurs, then they will have earthquakes approaching magnitude 7. But it's quite difficult to get a magnitude 7 in a tensile setting. Having said that, of course, there's an example in South Africa of a magnitude 8 earthquake, a normal earthquake, normal faulting earthquake that had a rupture length of hundreds of kilometers. But we don't have any large faults in this region. So from the seismicity and the B value, the number of earthquakes that are occurring and the rate, so you can produce a map like this. And this is a hazard map that shows the probability for exceedance of a given earthquake in a 50-year period. So this well, actually not for a given earthquake, but a given acceleration in any region. And the take-home message from this is, yes, lots of probable shaking in this region, less so in the Sudan, but in the region of the planned reservoir site, very good news indeed. We have a seismic hazard map which says no problems here at all. However, I'm not going to just leave it like that. I'm going to explore what that actually means in a second. Now, if you look at a cross-section, and the cross-section, it goes from the northwest to southeast, as shown in top right. This is the topography. So what is actually happening in this part of the world? Well, about 40 million years ago, the region rose as a result of hot, well, a plume we can talk about rising from below, causing uplift, both through underplating of magma and through simple temperature increase that raised the region, the Ethiopian highlands. And just before we move on from that simple concept, notice how high they are. This dome raised the level of the land from roughly 500 meters to higher than 3 kilometers. So this is a huge doming, and it is responsible for puncturing, initiating rifting and the triple junction that we've looked at in the last slide. So the uplift is caused by thermal doming. It started 40 million years ago. It's still ongoing. It's kind of set it it is set now as a geological feature because there is additional magma supporting this, but it's primarily thermal in origin. Now, the point about this is that if you bend the African crust in a sense that you're uplifting the margins, and that's what's happened, of course, all the way along the rift, then it results in tensile stresses at the base of the crust and compression at the surface. So this is just a bent slab. It's about 30 kilometers thick. And if you bend it with this kind of radius, which is it's an 800-kilometer region we're looking at, then you actually produce quite a considerable amount of compression. Now, at the start of this process of doming, the Lake Tana region was in fact a subsidence basin. I'm showing some normal faults here we don't really know much about these faults. People have sort of mapped them, they know they're there, but they haven't actually looked at least maybe one of you can correct me, nobody's actually dated the last movement on these faults. But my hunch is that these faults are now in weak compression or have been in compression recently. So we don't really know what the state of stress is here. All we know is that currently GPS rates between the flanks of the fault here and the African continent are of the order of a millimeter a year. So we know that the region is apparently in tension, but we don't really know the details. We don't have GPS measurements. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, in the sort of detail that we would like. I think the measurements that have been applied are looking at the big picture or the small picture, but they're not looking at the details near the dam setting. So I would raise this as a possible research issue, that we really would like to know what the rate of extension or contraction is between the flanks of the rift, in other words, some distance from the Afar Depression, and the Sudan region. And that seems to me a very simple project for someone to do, just requires 2 GPS receivers. If you don't have GPS receivers, I do, and I'm very willing to donate them to such a project. So this tectonic setting means that although the picture before, this one, tells us nothing's going on here, there in fact may well be flexural compression in this region that we don't know about. Either way, the sentence that we do not know about is, I think, room for concern. We should know about that. And this should have been a question answered long before anyone considered putting a dam there. Having said that, I know the dam was planned in the 1960s, so this would preceded plate tectonics and everything. So, you know, there's a big picture issue here historically that is responsible for this. But seriously, it would be of great value to put some GPS here. And if the GPS doesn't go there, we have sentinel scenes that will do the job, but it won't be as good. All right. Now, there's been a number of people who have written about the details of the setting of the GERD dam. And this is one from Mohammed's paper and Ismail El-Mahdi. We're looking at a series of fractures. These are lineaments that are recognized in 10-meter digital elevation models. I would submit this is, this is really not a very conclusive kind of study. For one thing, it should be done on much higher resolution digital elevation data. And it should be accompanied by field work. Now, I've yet to find any, publicly available field studies of the region. So I don't like looking at this kind of secondhand information from space and making any conclusions. I think it's of limited quantitative utility. It's shown largely to point out that if you have high pressure fluids, you have a whole series of conduits that might induce earthquakes. Well, yes, that's possibly true, but we can do better. The other thing is that there's a lot of alarmist statements come from people downstream for good reason, and a lot of reassuring comments from people either upstream or people who are designing the dams. Okay, now what's wrong with this picture is that I would like the reassuring comments to come from downstream and the alarmist comments to come from the people involved in the dam. If it's not that in that kind of balance, it means perhaps one might say there is a conflict of interest. In other words, it requires, I'm trying to put this delicately, okay, but this isn't how it should be. It should be a community of scientists talking with equal amounts of data available. And the problem is the data are not available. So let's start looking at what data we have. This is a synthetic filling curve. I was hoping to find the actual filling curve, but of course that's secret. Nobody wants to tell you exactly what's going on. And that is, again, I think an alarm. It should not be like that. You know, there should be public access to the details about what's going on. Maybe the public will mishandle it, but scientists need data, as you well know. So this is a synthetic filling curve. Here are the actual data. And because they're not published, the actual data come from looking at the reservoir from space. If you have a digital elevation model for the reservoir and you're looking at the reservoir from space, you can tell the depth of the water from the area filling up the valleys. And that's what's being done here on a monthly basis. And of course, we'll continue to do it. The last data point here is in August or so in 2022. But we can get these images on a 2-day basis now if we need. So there really is no secret. It just would be so much nicer to know what's happening on. Now, why I've shown this is that this dashed line here, I think, is the 100-meter level. What we need is the depth level, because what we should see is earthquakes starting to occur after a peak has arrived at. This is the 2021 peak, and the reservoir level. I'm sorry, I meant to put it on here, but I think it's only about 30 or 40 meters. And as we arrive here, we're getting up to the actual 600-meter level, which is close to the 100-meter depth we need, you know, the rule of thumb for induced seismicity. And what we should have seen was some earthquakes occurring in after the filling was complete in 2022. There was a slight decrease, and there should have been some earthquakes. There weren't, at least nothing greater than magnitude 4. And that again is I think a very sad commentary on the data available. There should be a seismic network around the dam. It is, after all, a $6 billion dam, and for about $6, you can start putting seismometers out. And if they're there, they're not publicly available. So I don't know of any earthquakes here. None show up on the USGS data catalog, and perhaps the Ethiopian seismic networks have picked up something, but nothing occurred, which is great news. However, in 2023, we will be above that level. And again, shortly after filling, we should expect to see the anticipated microseismicity. So this is actually my last slide, because I feel that the whole thing is a little bit disappointing from a scientific point of view. Okay, as far as I know, there is no seismic network installed near the dam. Okay, I feel that if things were open and there were a network, which there obviously should be, we would know about it. The geological site studies have obviously been done, but they're not public. And again, this is not what should be happening. Things should be open. Presumably, borehole information was obtained, but maybe not the right sort to determine subsurface groundwater conditions. I haven't even read any information on archaeological studies for the reservoir. This thing's going to be underwater for an extremely long period. And more importantly, the regions that are probably archaeological sites will have been silted up by the time the dam is out of commission in 200 years or so. The access to engineering information, again, is laughable. I have great faith in the Italian engineers doing a wonderful job on the engineering, but it's not public knowledge. It should be. And there is no information on the filling rate in real time. Again, I think that puts any kind of scientific commentary on what might happen at risk. It's led to an enormous amount of misinformation. My opinion is that the dam and the reservoir have been located in a remarkably stable location, and the dam is adequately engineered. But I defy anybody to be able to say that no earthquakes will be induced by this reservoir. It's just not possible to say that. We know in numerous locations where earthquakes have been placed in mid-continent settings, where no earthquakes have ever occurred before, that earthquakes have been induced by the reservoir loading and unloading. So the good news is we can detect earthquakes above about magnitude 4, anywhere, you know, in when they start occurring, or maybe if they don't occur, and we can record the reservoir level remotely. So the secrecy, if that was the intention of the dam designers, was unnecessary, and it would have been so much nicer to do this properly. That in fact, it would have been a very important educational moment for scientific investigations of this kind of a process. So that's my talk. I hope it wasn't too simple for you guys, but I think I've pointed out a real problem, that nobody can say earthquakes will occur or won't occur. And that's the nature of this kind of project. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Bilham. It's for me, you know, at least I can speak for myself. You know, I learn a lot and sheds light and to understand. You said, you know, you hope that it's not too simple, but for me, it's the opposite actually. So thank you very much, and I will open it for question and answer, if you don't mind.
No, good.
Okay, thank you. Anybody who has a question or a comment for Dr. Bilham?
Dr. Abate, this is
Yes.
Elias.
Yes, Elias, please.
Is there any way we can get a copy of the presentation? It's a very excellent presentation. I learned quite a lot.
I'm hoping you'll make it available. I put in lots of references so that you can, yeah.
Thank you. I would appreciate it. I got a question for you. Long-term drought, what would be the impact on the induced pore pressure change?
Oh, not very much, I don't think. I mean, essentially, if the reservoir level goes down and down and down, it's approaching a steady state condition where the load and the fluid pressures sort of match each other. It's when you start going above a certain injection level, which is, you know, for large dams, it turns out to be at 100 meters, but we know that microseismicity is induced by much smaller dams. But a drought is not going to, you know, a drought is like saying there's no water, in which case there's no problem.
Okay. That's all I got.
Roger?
Yeah. Okay, Brother Abate, if I can have a very quick question and interjection.
Go ahead.
Okay. Right. Let me take you to the northern part of the Nile. You know, the Nile goes up and then it comes down and then it goes up again around Abu Hamad and then around Dabba.
Right.
If you take the high dam of Egypt, the high dam of Egypt has a mass of 174 billion cubic meters.
Right.
And it has a height of 111. Who are aware of any effects out of that? This is a huge dam.
Yes. Yes.
And then there is a dam that I would like to bring to your attention, and that is the Marawi Dam. The Marawi Dam is in Sudan. It is when the Nile turns down and goes southwest. And about 6 or 7 years back, there was actually an earthquake 400 kilometers away, close to Port Sudan, near the Red Sea. And it seemed that the dam was affected because the Russians who built it had to come back and do some repairs. And the height of the dam was greatly reduced from the design of 203 meters to about 67 meters. So now I am taking you downstream where there are these two dams, especially the high dam. Do you have any information or do you have any reflections on why is the high dam still stable, if it is stable, and does it have any effects? Thank you.
Well, your questions are engineering questions, so I don't have informative answers for you. I'm sure we can find out, though. The induced earthquake being 200 miles away, I don't think it was induced. I think that was that there's no causal relationship at that kind of distance horizontally. So the actual shaking of the dam by the earthquake, however, is of concern. It means that the dam was not designed to withstand a certain type of earthquake. And that's a question that, again, I found missing in the case of the Renaissance dam. What is the design magnitude? What are the accelerations, the design accelerations for the dam? I was unable to find that. That seems to me the most fundamental design engineering input that was needed. Anyone out there? I mean, any of you guys know?
Maybe, this one, I think Elias wants to ask a question also, Dr. Elias, and he can maybe answer that question, or his colleagues, if they are here, they can answer. But there is one question that Professor El has said. Is there any seismic activity which is likely induced by the Aswan Dam? I think that's one part of his question. Are you aware of any?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes. It has induced earthquakes. It's fairly, just look up on the web, induced seismicity Aswan Dam, you'll find out when they were. They were modest earthquakes, magnitude I think 5, but that's enough to shake things.
Yeah. And let me give the opportunity to Dr. Elias Lowy.
Thank you, Abata. Well, there are many things which I want to say. Concerning about Roger's worry, I mean, as you know, Roger, I mean, this dam is constructed where we have a metamorphic terrain. It is in a solid ground, and I'm not sure if you are. I mean, I'm sure you know, because there was a student of mine who did his master's with me. Later, his PhD with Rebecca. You remember?
Yes.
Yalib Brahanu.
Yes.
His publication, I have it in front of me here, and the GPS stations around the dam never showed any deformation. For example, the nearest was in Asosa, which is about 100 kilometers away, and even the Bark station, Northern Gondar, all of them, it never showed any deformations. They were having 0. And
Yes.
The fact that also the dam is constructed in a very, it's on a niche that it is constructed.
Yes.
It's in a very stable place. I mean, these issues were raised in 2012. I was a member of the technical committee that evaluated the dam safety. There were 3 Germans, one Egyptian engineer and one from Sudan. We were sitting at the dam. It's not, I mean, maybe it's not open for the public, but for our Egyptian brothers, for our Sudanese brothers, and for those experts, engineers, dam engineers that came then, about 45, big volumes were open. For us also, they were open. I mean, I had a chance to study all the documents. I mean, I will assure you, they will be released one day, not now, because it's a very sensitive dam, and I cannot tell you also some information, but I will assure you, we showed them there, and they are convinced that there were some issues on the design, and those are agreed and changed.
Yes.
All the designs are changed until our Egyptian brothers are satisfied, until our Sudanese brother are
Yes.
satisfied, to the extent the Italians had to construct a special type of machine that led concrete curtain wall to 30-meter depths, okay, in places where there were some phyllite and so on to close them. And as you know, all the structure, because of it is metamorphic terrain at places, high-grade metamorphic terrain, they are welded by themselves because it is in pre-Cambrian age. So because of all these things, it is, I mean, in the safest place. Concerning about monitoring facilities, though we don't have in large number the way we wished them, we have some.
Okay.
I'll assure you. Before the filling, during the filling, before it started, we were monitoring them, especially GPS and seismic instruments. And not even, I mean, open for us, but Salini has some accelerometers and some piezometers are installed. I mean, it's a very controversial dam because, I mean, it's not controversial, I should correct, because downstream countries are highly worried. We have allowed all sorts of precautions, all sorts of, and everything is being monitored. In addition to that, what I would like to inform you is, as you perfectly put it, in the last 112 years from our seismic network, I wish Atala is around, Atala Ayala, my colleague, we have about 11 seismic network, but mainly around the central part of Ethiopia and one at GERD. And we are continuously monitoring. What we have observed until now around GERD is, I'll assure you, is when they have this dynamite explosion only. We have not even two. Can you believe? Not even two until now.
Yeah.
But as you said, induced seismicity is common, I mean, worldwide. And when you construct them, this is expected. And the safety factor is very high, I'll assure you.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
I don't want to say it now also because it can raise controversy. I mean, anything you expose in the, I mean, in open is bringing a lot of things, but anyone who is interested, who is coming officially, will be allowed to see everything.
Mhm.
And literally everyone coming there is assured when he's leaving. Okay. And I have been more than 20 times at the dam site and checking our instrument if they are working and seeing. It is the Nubian motion which we are observing until now with the GPS instrument. Nothing more, nothing less.
Right.
Because we wanted to have more than 7 or so, but there are some issues which didn't allow because there is a lot of contractual issue. There are many things which I cannot tell here now. Okay.
Yes. No, that was very, very informative, insightful. I'd like to reassure you, I consider the dam to be well engineered, and I consider the geological setting to be almost perfect for a dam. I hope I didn't give you the impression that I don't. If you had to put a dam somewhere, that's absolutely the ideal place for it.
That's it.
It's also very reassuring to hear that you have instrumentation locally, and I respect the need to not advertise that too much, because in the wrong hands people can come to the wrong conclusions from any kind of numerical data. So yeah, I apologize for speculating that maybe it was missing. No,
you are right. You are right. Sorry.
okay.
I didn't say that, Roger. I mean, I know you. What I would like to say is we would like to have them. I mean, we would like to have more.
Ah, yes, I agree. I think this is a fabulous opportunity.
We would like to have more, but there are many issues that didn't allow us.
Right. Here's one point I'd like to make about GPS measurements, that a point measurement near the dam is not actually what you need. What you'd like to know is whether there is any long-term stressing rate applied to the region. So what you'd like are instruments 50 kilometers on each side of the dam, maybe one in the Sudan, one in, near Lake Tana. That is the region that would tell you whether there's any ongoing stress. I think it's too late to do those measurements, but
No.
people
Around Lake Tana, we have one. At
Yes.
Bahar Dar, we have one. That
Yes.
is currently measuring. At Dabark, we have one. At Asosa, we have one. On the dam, we have one.
Yes.
No, I'm not. What I would like to tell you is, for example, let me inform you.
Yes.
I was the one that laid the gravity network for Aswan because I was sent from Germany. Then I was working in German university.
Yes, very
And
good.
I was the one from Germany that was sent by a professor to lay the gravity network there. The
Right.
gravity, I'm not talking about the GPS.
Yes.
So we would like to have more. As scientists, we are never satisfied. We want, but currently what we are doing is from far away from Bahar Dar, from Debak, which is northwest, and from Asosa, there is another one. And on the dam itself, actually at the Saddle Dam, we have one, just a bit away from the Saddle Dam at one end. That's what I can inform you.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just, this is scientifically very exciting, actually. One thing, as you're aware, the sentinel scenes are occurring every 2 or 3 days. And what I suspect is that one of the most interesting things that will come out of this as a scientific study for you guys will be the loading of the dam. It is enormously heavy. I mean, it's 73 cubic kilometers when it's full. But that will actually produce a depression centered on the dam, which you'll pick up with the GPS, but you'll also pick up with the sentinel interferometry. And I think that would be a great study for one of your students.
Yeah. A quick interjection, please. Just a quick interjection to Roger before I forgot about this. This dam, the GERD dam, has been so highly politicized that the whole project had to fall within the national security of Ethiopia. We don't want to underestimate that. And the Ethiopians have been hit right, left, and center since 1936. The first idea of the GERD was in 1936. It never materialized because of the Second World War. And the assumption of the 1959 agreement between Sudan and Egypt is that all the water, 85 billion cubic meters of water at Aswan Dam, were to be shared between the two countries. So I have all the sympathy for Ethiopia for being extremely careful about any information that might be used against them. And I think in such scientific approaches, we should not forget there's a difference between water policies and water politics. We should not forget the water politics. Thank you.
No, I thank you for pointing that out. As scientists, of course, we live in a world where we think politics doesn't exist, but that, of course, is very silly. I don't know whether you know that I was banned from India for 7 years because I wrote an article about seismic hazard analysis near one of their nuclear power plants. I've learned my lesson on that.
So Roger, coming back to your question.
Yes, sorry.
For the satisfaction of our, what do you call it, scientific ego, let me call it. We have, as you know, now in the Institute of Geophysics, Space Science and Astronomy, there is one unit a department called Geodesy, Geomatics and Gravimetry. And that the Geodesy, Geomatics and Gravimetry unit, with its 10 staff, is continuously monitoring from remote sensing data, optical, INSAR, and so on, the feeling. And we are trying to match and check. So, I mean, we cannot publish these things because this is a very sensitive thing, dam, but continuously my staff are monitoring that and checking each day if the ground truth and remote sensing data are matching together and so on. But, I mean, it's not to the extent we wish, but we are doing our best.
I'm absolutely delighted to hear you're doing that. Well done.
Thank you very much. You know, this is very interesting. I'm glad that we are having this this kind of discussion. I would like to thank all of you here, especially, of course, Dr. Bilham, for making the presentation. And I'll give Sammu. I think I saw Sammu here, or is he gone? I saw his hand raised.
Yeah, I am here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Sammu Mogas, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Roger, for a nice, enlightening presentation. I'm a hydrologist, so I'm not a close to geologist. I'm also happy to see Elias. We have been in German together. Elias, do you
Hi, Sam.
remember me?
Yes, yes, I remember some.
I show you.
Yeah, yeah. How
Yes.
are you? Yeah, also my friend Elias, I think I know most of you. One comment I have and one question for Roger is that a comment is, I think, building a dam, there is a contractual issue between contractors and Ethiopian government, and it has an issue, so you cannot publish until the dam is commissioned. Say. It's related to that. You cannot really give out data for, because if a researcher gets some issue, then it would be at the neck of the contractor. So they protect themselves also. So that's a contractual issue. I think within a couple of 3 to 4 years, we would be getting more and more publications on that. I'm also happy that Elias, you are doing a lot of monitoring, and I am also close to the dam in a way, in hydrologic sense. My question is for Roger, is that we have close to more than 80,000 dams in the United States. I live in the United States. I also know more than 90,000 dams, small to high dams in China. And there are a lot of dams in the entire world. And thousands of dams, more than 100 meters in terms of height. And also there are dams like Aswan, which is twice, holds twice the water than GERD. So we know most all dams have induced earthquake. So can you elaborate from your experience a little bit? There is, of course, an issue between earth dams and concrete dams. We know historically failures on earth dams. I have quite heard a lot in terms of concrete dams. So can you shed light on this? Most of the dams we see are more than 50 years in the United States. Most of the dams, maybe there are 100 years dams. So what is your take on message? The likelihood that given current construction is based on state-of-the-art construction methods, which is better than construction methods which was 50 or 100 years ago. So what is your overall take on, from your geological assessment, from overall dams in the world, the future risk of GERD dam for the downstream countries? Thank you.
Yeah, okay, that's a big question, and of course a simple answer would be impossible, but I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that whatever type of dam we have, I don't know of a dam that has been destroyed by an earthquake. Let me just draw your attention to the prime example, the 1906 earthquake. Okay, it was a 7.4, 7.5. It ruptured right through the San Andreas earthfill dam, right through it. It offset it by 3 or 4 meters. And the thing was not a modern day dam. It was one of those very early earthfill dams. It didn't fail. So I don't think it's very likely that any large earthquake will destroy any present day dam. That's not really the issue. I have been addressing, I hope, the more interesting scientific issue of induced earthquakes, not because they're going to destroy the dam, but because they are intrinsically interesting ways of releasing stored historical stress in ancient rocks. So, you know, I gave this talk hoping that I would not be giving anything too alarming. I mean, essentially, this is not an alarming issue, but what I'm trying to do is defuse the nonsense speculation that people are raising that this particular dam is a threat downstream, because I don't think it is. I think it's well designed. I think it's in the right place. If you have to put a dam somewhere, this is perfect, for goodness sake. And but the notion that it will or will not induce seismicity, I think is still open. I really do. We've seen in the Mangla Dam, for example, was when it was first filled, it was expected to induce earthquakes. It really didn't do anything. It didn't produce large earthquakes, moderate earthquakes, or even small ones. But the recent raising of the level by an extra 30 meters or whatever has in fact started that process. So I think that it's still an open question, and it's an interesting question, not a dangerous one.
Yes, it's good, and time is going on, but Alam, I see your hand raised. Dr. Alam Gabriel, please. Dr. Bilham, can you start the sharing so that we can see the
Oh yes.
all?
Yeah, how do I do that? Stop share. Got it.
Yes, this is better. You know, we can see.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, that's good. Okay, Alam, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. It was a very educational presentation, both from Dr. Bilham and the analysis what's really going on in Ethiopia from Addis Ababa, Dr. Elias. My question is, there are a lot of article coming from one side, from the downstream country, so-called experts putting either newspaper, sometimes in published, reviewed, published journals. I don't know if you guys have seen it. One of the article, they did some kind of measurement from space, from satellite, and published a paper, deformation or settling on the Saddle Dam location. I don't know if you have seen that article. I just want to see if you have seen it or read it, or if anything is going on in that part of the dam, if anything has been to collaborate or to negate. And the other thing is, I'm glad Elias mentioned they are doing a lot of measurements in that area, but when that can be really put in terms of publication for general public or academician to review it, because we see a lot of misinformation. Even there was earthquake recently close to Adigrat, close to Ethiopian Eritrean border, and one of the Egyptian newspaper linked it to GERD. So when this kind of really misinformation is out in the media, what's the best way to combat it without really releasing all the secret of or sensitive information or data collected around the? Thank you. Any of you can comment on that one, I appreciate it. But it's very, very insightful presentation. Thank you again. I learned a lot. I have very, very little knowledge on this area. I'm a hydrologist and hydraulics engineer. So I'm a water resource consultant for the past 25 years. This is not my area of expertise at all. So again, thank you for enlightening me.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Two questions. The first one, I don't know of an article that showed anything from space. There was an article in EOS that was withdrawn. Very unusual. I have no idea what it said. I was trying to follow it. Maybe some of you know what was said, but it was apparently it was not considered to be sufficiently credible for the American Geophysical Union to consider it should stay in press. This is the first time I've ever known an article being removed like that. So that's the first question. The second question is a political one, and I don't know. I am not a very good political person, and I don't know how to say that somebody is out to lunch politely.
Well,
Yes.
okay, I can give some
Okay.
matter.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can give some answer to what Alam has said. Actually, I mean, concerning that paper, we heard also, you see, if we are reacting to all sorts of informations that are coming, I mean, to the public, we are not going to do our job. I mean, so we will react only when the scientists, we know, I mean, the scientists, I mean, across the border in Sudan, who is there, in Egypt, who is there, we know they never publish such kind of things. I mean, the proper scientists.
Yeah.
If they are presenting with fact, it is something positive for us because we are not, I mean, let it be in Egypt, let it be, if it's going to cause any damage to our Sudanese or Egyptian brother, that will be also a very serious concern for us because these are our brothers. So, but because of some other, I don't know, underlying issues, if they are publishing information which is not based on scientific, what they call it, data, then we'll not react, I'll assure you, because it's just a wastage of time. But about this EOS, which Roger has mentioned, Professor Atale then had to react because it caused a lot of panic in many people, and that was why it was taken away, because it was on false information. We proved them wrong because let me tell you something. Roger is here also. You can elaborate it if necessary. You see, earthquake is like sound. If I am shouting very loud, people worldwide can hear it. If I am shouting, I mean, if I am shouting loud, people very far away can hear me. But if I am shouting, I mean, if I am speaking very laser, only people near that area will hear it. So there are about 10 monitoring facilities in Ethiopia, the nearest to GERD. And if there is an earthquake, we are the first one to measure even the small earthquakes. And I will assure you, we are scientists, we are not politicians. So if there is anything very serious, we would have mentioned it earlier. Had this been a dam in the rift system, I would have reacted the other way around. But this is a dam in a very safe place. And what we have told you is proper. And the second one about this Adigrat case is, actually, there was a newspaper, Align or so, they contacted me also, and I gave them information. This is something about 700, 800 kilometers away. And it was not even in Adigrat. It was later our stations. I mean, USGS put it very near to Eritrea, but our stations put it in Afar. I mean, it is in the western fault area where we have this is a margin between the rift system and the highland. So this is completely, for me, just something which someone will talk and will forget it. But if there is very serious issue, we would have reacted, because our institute is continuously monitoring and doing the job. And this is an independent institution, by the way, nothing to do with the Ministry of Water Resources. We are university members, and this is purely a scientific interest for us. You got my point. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, so we got it, and thank you for the assurance. You know, not only the educational, informative, presentation here by Dr. Bilham and the discussion, Elias.
Dr. Amater.
Yeah.
Can you give me 2 minutes?
Yeah, I'll give you, but I have to first acknowledge Dr. Lama because he was signed for a long time, and then Dr. Professor El Kahzin, but let me finish this one very quickly, very quickly. So the assurance that we got from Dr. Elias, is very good. It's really very important also. And I think it's very important for Dr. Bilham also to know that there is a scientific community, an institute which is devoted in doing the right thing. And I encourage you guys, if to exchange, to know each other. I can pass, the information, the email address, or even, if you don't mind, your mobile address, phone numbers also. So you can talk with each other in your language of seismology and earthquakes, and so that you can have a collaboration. By the way, I remember you said that you have a few things that you can give to the I don't know how big it is, how expensive it is, or is it like a pencil or something like that, but you can work it out, okay? Yeah, very good. And first, Dr. Lama, please, and make it short, please, make it short, because the time is
Thank you.
And Professor Elhaz and Samu, that will be the last. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Abad. I first raised my hand very early after I waited a while for Dr. Elias, hoping Dr. Elias would answer some of the questions in the concluding section of Dr. Bilham. That was the initial reason I raised my hand. But I also thank you for picking Dr. Elias to come and answer Dr. Bilham's questions, because that essentially got my objective done. So I thank you for that. Having said that, I honestly learned more than I expected, and I thank the presenter for the way it was presented in detail and in a language I could relate. As I said, I am water resources engineer, hydraulics, hydrology, structures, and that's the difference between the East and West education system. Some of you who went to Europe may have that. And so I do relate to the explanations, and I appreciate that. The other thing I appreciate is Dr. Elias' explanation on what is going on. It is understandable that not all information can be shared, and especially in this case related to GERD, it's beyond sensitive. It is, it's a constant thing forever. Somebody mentioned 1936. I have read stories before that, what was going on egregiously between Egypt and what they are trying to do to Ethiopia and others. Having said that, I don't know how, Dr. Elias, this is for you. I don't know how you could find a way to not only satisfy the need of technical people for information related to GERD's issues, to make it available, but also keep the necessary precautions that are needed. And then when there isn't information available, there is always the chance and probability simply zooms up in the absence of information. There is a downside for not showing or giving the information, and it would be useful to find ways to share information, make public, and that way it doesn't become something subject to twist and turn as they wish. I will stop there and thank everybody for being here and sharing what they did, and especially the presenter. and Dr. Elias. This was very informative. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you are right. You are right. It should have been, I mean, open for the public whenever it is possible. At the beginning, we did that. I mean, maybe that time it was not hot. It was really an issue between Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan. We were coming, I mean, to at least Ethiopian news media, and we're trying to tell, I mean, I had 2-3 times interviews, and about the reality, we were trying always to give information. But later, dam safety was not an issue, by the way. Currently, I haven't heard, I mean, anything from our Egyptian friends. I mean, I'm not talking about people that are writing in newspapers and so on, but I mean, from the group that is coming for negotiation, dam safety is no more an issue. It is now filling, it is now operation. These are the issues now. And because of that, in the last 3, 4, 5 years, I mean, we didn't give any information to the public, as I have said. Except once one British journalist once asked about induced seismicity. Yes, we said that induced seismicity is possible, but all precautionary measures, and when we talk about also induced seismicity, I mean, the magnitude which we are expecting, as Roger put it properly, was mentioned, and that the dam safety has already taken into design all the things. We have mentioned that, but as you have said, you are right. It is necessary to come and give, but whenever there is no need, if you are giving information, you are causing more havoc than giving solutions. So unless and otherwise it is necessary, we are not going to do it. But whenever it is necessary, we will do that. I will assure you.
Yeah. Yes. You know, about this, I have to really remind. Not only in the safety side, but about drought, and there was an Egyptian group. I mean, they were from University of California. Imagine, they published it, and then there was. But I don't want to bring it here. But that was not scientific. That is really, as Dr. Wheeler, he has to write, and others also from our group also, they have to write to take it out, to withdraw the paper. So that kind of pseudo-scientist, publications may appear in a respectful journals here and there, very few, but I'm glad that it is being withdrawn, like you said, in the EOS, isn't it? So
Yes.
this kind of things are there. Yes, yeah. I'm very glad, to have Elias. By the way, I already told you, and I have to repeat it here. We were in the same institute, because it gives me, a little bit higher status here. Okay, thank you very much. And Professor Elhas, very quickly, please. And some I will give also opportunity to for Mr. Nicholas Tumawine, I think, from Uganda, to tell about yourself, because this is a forum which enables us to know each other also. So make it quickly, Professor.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will. One of our problems, Roger, is that the Nile, as we speak, hasn't got a cooperative framework agreement. And the Nile Basin Initiative today is not what was envisaged in 1992. So the issue of information, the issue of cooperation, these are what I call the emerging issues. I know your lecture was about technology and science, but the borderlines are overlapping, and the absence. I mean, this is the only major basin in the world that hasn't got a cooperative agreement, and I think this is a major factor in the lack of cooperation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. And by the way, Dr. Bilham and the rest of you, I will send the article that I wrote on the cooperative framework agreement, just a note to explain what it is and what the hindrances are. Professor Elka has approved it, so it should be communicated to you soon through email. Samu, go ahead, please. Dr. Samu, are you there? Okay. Mr. Nicholas, welcome and thank you very much for being here. Please tell us about yourself.
Good evening. My name is Nicholas Tumwine. I'm from Uganda. I'm from Ministry of Water and Environment, and specifically I belong to the dam safety section, which I have been in for about 6 years now. For Uganda case, we are still developing the regulations. We haven't started implementing at the level of really policy things, but we do dam safety inspections. We do dam safety management, especially for hydropower and the small dams for irrigation and livestock. My background, I'm civil engineer with the master's in infrastructure planning and development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are you from Kampala or some other place?
I'm from Kampala.
Yeah, I never visited Kampala, so send me the invitation. With the hotel and everything. Welcome, Nicholas. Thank you very much. And I have to give, because Samu is not, I think, responding. Mr. Gosai, a very important person here also. Mr. Gosai, do you want to say something? Introducing yourself, or he's not? Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Abate. At this time, I will not say anything except as an energy expert, I learned a lot, and I have got a lot of information on seismicity. So this is not my area of expertise, but I have got a lot of information. Thank you very much. Thank you for, I think, Dr. Elias and Dr. Roger. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. I acknowledge, everybody here. Dr. Brook there, I see his name, Dr. Branu Tayedos, both of them from the medical side. Damaka Branu, an architect, Kabra Abes, civil engineer, and who else? Everybody. I would like to thank everybody, and thank you very much. And I hope to see you in the next session, which will be in February. And I will let you know. Yeah. Tell your friends about this forum, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it was
you,
an honor to
Abate.
meet you
Yes,
guys.
Thank you, Dr. Abate.
Can you stay back, Elias?
Yeah, Abate. I would like to thank.
Yes, please go ahead. Yes. Okay.
I would like to thank Roger because he has presented a very complicated theory in a very simple form. And this is a special talent. And Roger, really, thank you very much. I mean, it's from my heart that I'm thanking you.
No, I have to thank you all for the privilege of talking with you. It's just wonderful. And especially to you, Elias. I hope to visit you one day.
Yes, sure. Soon we'll have it. I will communicate with you offline, okay?
Yes.
I hope Abate will send me your email.
Yes, I will do that. This is the purpose, one of the purposes of this forum.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Elias,
Bye, everybody.
I would like to thank all of you.
Yes, thank you. Elias, are you at, you said that you are at your workplace or at home? No, not at home.
No, currently I'm at home. Yeah.
I would like to talk to you if you remain there for just 1 or 2 minutes.
I'll remain.
Okay, wait, for some time.
Okay,
thank you very much. Appreciate. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Abate. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Shukran.
Shukran.
Call me when you get time, okay?
Okay, I will call you.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you.